All right, let's move on to the elephant in the room, shall we, Herculez Gomez? The player who is not around. That's right, Gio Reyna. Gio Reyna not on this list. Of course, Gio Reyna, a player who has a long history with Gregg Berhalter. And Gregg Berhalter was asked about that history in an interview that he did with Vanity Fair. Okay? Now, it's worth noting, Gio Reyna is returning to fitness. Remember, we thought he had a muscular injury. It turns out, reportedly, he had a fracture in his leg. So he's just getting back to fitness for Dortmund, but not in the roster for that reason. Here's what Gregg Berhalter had to say to Vanity Fair about the relationship with Gio. Quote, "It's not something where you just pick up the phone and say, hey, bud, here's how it's going to go. There is work to be done." All right, Berhalter, of course, asked about this as well during his press conference on Wednesday. Let's hear what he had to say.
Well, those are conversations that I look forward to, and it's just understanding sensitivities around it, right? I mean, he's a young player. I think for everyone involved, it's been a lot for the last 6 months, and we just want to do it in the best possible way to put him in position to help the team in a way that we know he can. And, unfortunately, he was ruled out for this camp, but I look forward to continuing to monitor his progress at Dortmund and hopefully getting him back into camp in October. No, I wouldn't say that. That's not fair to say he's non-responsive. That's not accurate. He's been responding, and for us, it's understanding the sensitivity around the issues, understanding the right time in the right way. And, I think, again, it's for us, we're committed to every single player in this player pool. And for us, it's about how do we maximize communication with them and target it in a way that we're getting the most out of each and every player. So for this, it's just being a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more sensitive to the past. And I look forward to having conversations with him. I look forward to watching, his progress and hopefully him getting back on the field. And then for us, hopefully being able to include him in the October camp against, two good opponents.
Okay, Herc, is it time for another get lost for Gregg Berhalter, this time for his latest handling of Gio Reyna?
Not just Gregg Berhalter, but let me go one step further for U.S. soccer. I won't pretend to know how difficult it's been for the Berhalters, the Reynas, collectively and individually. I'm sure it's been very difficult. But in terms of your job, in terms of the program, if you're Matt Crocker in U.S. Soccer, you don't move on and name Gregg Berhalter until you know that conversation's been had. That's the very first number, first text message, first call, first email, whatever you want that should have gone down. You see how it falls, how the dominoes falls, what plays after, and you make a decision on Gregg Berhalter. But to not do that, to leave it now, where the situation is growing and growing and growing, is so disappointing. I mean, to hear Gregg Berhalter in the Vanity Fair interview or in these press conferences talk about the WHO summit and sending individual text messages or notes, as he says, to all the players to apologize. Was Giovanni Reyna one of those players? You apologized to everybody else before Giovanni Reyna. You spoke to everybody else before you spoke to Giovanni Reyna. It's a very ugly situation, and one that should be so far down the line, so far past if you're U.S. Soccer and Gregg Berhalter. And all you've done by not acknowledging the elephant in the room is making it that much bigger. I don't know where you go from here. You're talking about, if you're U.S. Soccer, Gregg Berhalter, that if you're lucky gives you one cycle, maybe a good one. But if you're lucky with the ceiling that Giovanni Reyna has, you get a generational talent that you can build around, and you're going about it the wrong way.
Yeah, fascinating stuff in the Vanity Fair article, right down to the mediation experts. I found that very interesting, that's what Gregg Berhalter was relying on in terms of how he was going to mend this bridge with Gio Reyna. From a U.S. soccer perspective, I think this is kind of what you get, right? This was the complaints, or at least kind of the feeling that I had in Las Vegas when this news dropped, was we're going to be talking about this for a while. Now, here we are, Herc. We're 9 months down the road. I mean, this basically exploded the first week of January of this year. We are heading to the first days of September, and the story is still kind of the same, right? This tension between Gregg Berhalter and Gio Reyna. And remember, when he took over, they didn't make him coach the Gold Cup because he was going to be doing big picture things. Well, to your point, what is more big picture than solving this relationship? I think that's the real head scratcher here. It's one, that it's not done yet, and two, Herc, there's been plenty of time to do it. It begs the question, what do we think Gregg Berhalter's truly waiting on here?
I don't know. The fact that he goes out and seeks professional help like a mediator to do this leads me to believe there's still an HR problem and they need to go about it the right way. I don't know. But it's very simple. It's as simple as taking a flight, getting on a plane. It's a business relationship. Can we work together? Can we do this? And moving forward. I understand there's a lot of history between the two families, a lot of history between the two people who are in this case involved, Gregg Berhalter and Gio Reyna. But there is no situation in where you get the best version of the U.S. men's national team without Gio Reyna. And you need to realize that if you're Gregg Berhalter.
Yeah, and it feels like another PR exercise here, right? The Vanity Fair article drops right before the roster drops. And you're thinking, why is Gregg Berhalter talking to Vanity Fair before he's talking to Gio Reyna? That's the question that really comes across here. It seems like we can't confront this thing head on. We're going to keep beating around the bush, and it's going to keep rearing its ugly head until finally Gio is healthy during one of these windows. Hopefully it will be the next one in October.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.